Hey there, Jen here. Unfortunately, coming to you with a sad story today. There's another water crisis that is not new, but it is newly coming into the news thanks to Bernie Sanders, and it's in Denmark, South Carolina. And it has to do with aging pipes and infrastructure, just like all over the country we have that problem. But it also has to do with an unfortunate chemical that has been added to the water source for 10 years. And there's cover-ups and denials and a lot of the same stuff that we saw in Flint. And it's absolutely terrible. I'll start out by showing you what presidential candidate Senator Bernie Sanders has to say from his recent visit to Denmark, South Carolina, where this problem is taking place.
On the water,
right,
and this came out.
Right.
Hello.
I can't believe it.
Oh,
Don't start me crying.
No, don't start crying.
Oh, I'm so happy you're here. We need you here for water. The water's so bad here. Nobody didn't believe me for 11 years. Now they believe me.
When the water come out, see how pretty clear it is? See
This
that?
is what settles at the
And
bottom.
it cells. And just imagine when you put it through like this. We've been fighting the water crisis here since 2009. We have to travel to get the water from our spring, close to 24 miles. Guess what? I didn't know. I didn't know till this year. I have some family members right now is now rotting from the inside out. God knows there's so many people that pass in this town. They don't know what did happen. See what it said about the water right here?
Wasn't EPA approved?
Wasn't approved.
No water treatment plant?
No water treatment plant.
Not here.
We paying for poison water. Single cities, the babies, all of us. We breaking out from the water.
I have a level lady in me, and that's how we found out like that something's wrong with the water.
People's dying around here, and a lot of people can't go to Healing Spring to get water. They don't have no car. Some of them can't even afford to
If anyone thinks this is just the South Carolina issue, you are dead wrong. This is an American issue, and more the water that people are drinking is polluted. We have got to address it.
I watch him on television, and when he speak the truth. He speak from his heart. And I am so happy Mr. Bundy Sanders came to this home. I didn't sleep too good last night. I was so excited he was coming here. I can't wait till he walk in my door.
So there you have a family who's been dealing with this for 10 years. Hold on, let me cancel Mr. Danny DeVito's coming up next year. This family has been dealing with this for 10 years, and they haven't really gotten anyone to pay attention. In 2008, there were a slew of articles that came out. You know, CNN was on the story in 2018. But since then, not much has been made of it until Bernie Sanders brought it back out into the spotlight. So one thing is that you are definitely seeing echoes of Flint here. That's an African American family, and let me show you the demographics of Denmark, South Carolina. So Denmark, South Carolina, as of the 2000 census, has 3,328 people, and it is 85.91% African American. So I say that statistic right off the top to show you, to tell you, to make it clear that this is yet another city where it is racism for water. It's insane. If this were a wealthy white community, this problem would have been taken care of immediately. There's a lot of things I'll go into about the details of this particular water problem, but it has to be made clear that if this were a wealthy white neighborhood, it would have been taken care of. Instead, this is a very heavily African American population in Denmark, South Carolina, and perhaps, most likely, absolutely, that's the reason why that this has not been taken care of. And I'll go through a lot of the health issues and things like that. Actually, let me pull that up right now, the health concerns. So let me go into what happened, the health concerns, all of that. 1 second here, I'm pulling up my notes. So this is, again, Denmark, South Carolina, where workers injected a little-known chemical into the water for 10 years. And CNN, when they did their investigation, they FOIA'd information and found that the state government was adding something called HaloSan to one of the city's 4 wells. And they were trying to regulate naturally occurring iron bacteria, which can leave red stains and rust-like deposits in the water. So they were trying to counteract the bacteria, but as you'll find out, there are a lot of health concerns associated with this. And EPA officials have said that HaloSan is not approved for use in drinking water systems. And this HaloSan is usually found used as a disinfectant for pools and spas. And CNN, when they did their investigation, they could not find another instance where HaloSan was used in a drinking water system. And again, it shouldn't be, because it's not approved for use by that for the EPA. Now, what people are finding, the symptoms people are dealing with, is itching in the shower, which is a lot of what we saw in Flint as well, hair falling out. And one woman, she lived in Denmark, and she had the itching and the hair falling out, and she has a bald spot now. But as soon as she moved to Orangeburg, a town or a city called Orangeburg, that stopped for her. So she had to leave behind the house that she bought with her life savings and move somewhere else because the water was so bad. And a doctor said that Denmark's water supply apparently was causing a skin ailment known as dermatitis in several citizens. And this doctor's name is Dr. Gail D. Washington. And she wrote Bakari Sellers actually in February 23rd, 2010, saying, "Unfortunately, there are several patients that I have treated that have the same complaint. The dermatitis is believed to be caused by the water supply in Denmark." And in addition to the hair falling out, the itches, there can be skin discoloration, blistering, hives, welts, bleeding, eye pain, eye swelling, and as of 2018, there were at least a group of 40 residents that were kind of on top of this and believe the water is to blame for their illnesses and the maladies that they're suffering from. And what people are seeing from the tap is dark brown water, like you saw in that Bernie Sanders video. And some residents are complaining of foul-smelling, discolored water that stains their sinks and even messes up their clothes when they're washing their clothes. And it's a brown, muddy color when people are taking these samples from their taps. So you can see the particles in the water. Even if it looks kind of clear, when you shake it up, you can see the particles moving around. And one resident in particular reported, his name is Eugene Smith, he reported that unsafe levels of lead were found in his tap water at one point. And as you saw in the video, the man had lead in his blood, which is terrible. So many residents, as a result of this, are having to drive to another well system 20 miles away, or 20 minutes away, I believe it's 8 miles actually, to Blackville, where they fill up jugs rather than drink what comes from their taps. And they don't believe that they can rely on the South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control to give them any straight answers at all. Now there are lawsuits. Some residents are so upset that they've hired lawyers. And as I mentioned, Bakari Sellers, a former state rep who grew up in Denmark, is among the attorneys who filed suit. Sellers said he is not surprised by the HaloSan questions, given Denmark's track record. And while he was a state representative, Sellers pushed unsuccessfully for a regional water system to include Denmark because the water system was so bad. So this has been going on for a long, long time. And in Denmark has failed 8 of 25 state water system inspections since 2005. Including in 2018, which found 4 major problems. There were even ants swirling around in the water system. And in 2009, city council member from Denmark showed that the public works director warned of problems, and he said the small city's chlorine cylinders were in such bad shape that they were leaking, that it was leaking, which can be life-threatening. So DHEC has fined Denmark $4,200 in the past decade for problems with its drinking water, which is actually well below what they could have fined them. So we have people getting sick. We have people having to drive a great distance. We have lawsuits coming. And then we have this HaloSan. So what is this HaloSan, this chemical that was put into the water for 10 years? So it's, as I said, usually used as a disinfectant for pools and spas, and it can cause all of the problems we talked about, skin and eye problems. And state regulators have said they consider HaloSan to be harmless despite all of the reported health effects. And South Carolina regulators have been unable to show how much of the chemical was injected into the water from 2008 until this year, but Clemson pesticide regulators have ordered the city to quit using it. So at least they've had to stop using this HaloSan, which they use to correct one problem, even the bacteria, even though it wasn't EPA approved to be used for drinking water. North Carolina officials banned the use of HaloSan in 2006 in drinking water because they were afraid of the buildup of toxic chemicals in the drinking water. So obviously South Carolina should have followed suit. HaloSan is advertised as an aid in cleaning wells to prevent clogs that would make wells less productive. So there's kind of some cover-ups here. South Carolina officials say that they thought it was okay to approve the use of HaloSan because of the way it was advertised. And so the company that makes HaloSan, Berry Systems, is culpable here as well because of the way they advertised. So that doesn't excuse South Carolina at all, and they should not have approved this chemical. So let's go ahead and get off of my notes here. One second. Sorry. Closing my notes, which you can't see. Ha ha ha. Let's close my notes and I'll go through an article written by the state. And actually, a lot of my notes came from what I found from CNN. their reporting and the state their reporting. And the state is a South Carolina paper or online news. Itchy skin, hair loss, and uncertainty. What's in South Carolina City's water? Denmark, South Carolina. And this, under this video here, it says the city of Denmark, South Carolina shut down a well supplying water to its 3,300 residents, and lawyers are pursuing lawsuits in the latest problem with the town's water supply. And I won't read all of this because it's a very long article, and I kind of summarized it in my notes for you there. After moving into an old home in Denmark 4 years ago, Palmer Williams says her skin began to itch almost every time she took a shower. Then, Williams said, her hair began falling out. Already frustrated with the dark brown water that gushed from her tap, Williams moved away earlier this year, no longer willing to stay in the 2,500 square foot home she spent her life savings to repair. Today, Williams has a bald spot on her scalp and a hole in her pocket. So she had taken her hard-earned money and put it into that house, and then she had to move away. The issue with the water has attracted national attention, sparked handouts of bottled water, and prompted 2 lawsuits in the past month. And keep in mind, this was written November 30th, 2018. There isn't much new news about this. I expect there will be now that Bernie Sanders has brought it back to the forefront. In a rare move last summer, pesticide regulators at Clemson University ordered the city to stop using the product, known by the trade name HaloSan, because it wasn't approved by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. EPA officials have said HaloSan's use is uncommon in public drinking water systems, if it ever has been used at all, according to emails obtained by the state. The well has also been shut down. The active ingredient in HaloSan can cause skin and eye problems if too much is added to the water. A key question is whether Denmark injected the proper amount and if it affected the health of the city's 3,300 residents. For weeks, state regulators have said they considered HaloSan to be harmless. Now they're having second thoughts about whether Denmark and state federal officials kept close enough tabs on its use. South Carolina regulators have been unable to show how much of the chemical was injected into Denmark's water from 2008 until this year, when Clemson pesticide regulators ordered the city to quit using it. But records indicate past problems. A 2011 DHEC fine cited Denmark for failing to understand how its HaloSan injection system worked. Let's go down here. We've already gone over some of that in the notes here. Questions about HaloSan's use have spiked since CNN and the state reported on the issue November 11th. CNN was the first to report on questions about HaloSan. DHEC can't say what caused Williams' skin problems. Any number of things could result in itching and hair loss, but Williams thinks it was the water, adding the itching stopped when she moved to Orangeburg earlier this year. They need to look into this, said Williams, a retired home health care worker, but they should have been looking into it way before now. Long before the HaloSan issue arose, some Denmark residents complained about the quality of the water the city supplies them. Many fill up jugs and drive to another spring in Blackville. Some residents complain of foul-smelling, discolored water that stains their sinks and makes their clothes dingy after washing. And even when the water runs clear, you can still see different particles in it. And then we see water issues serious in 2010. But the mayor, so this is one issue that is upsetting. Mayor Wright, the mayor of Denmark, says that progress is being made in fixing its water systems using government grants to replace old pipes and worn-out wells. We've been responsible, but we've also been responsive, Wright said. That's all I know to do. Denmark officials declined to tell the state how much they've spent repairing the aging water system. And Status Coup has its own issues with Mark Edwards, who they talk about next, because he did some what we believe to be faulty testing in the Flint water crisis. He's a Virginia Tech water researcher and is famous for that. He's also famous for having sued a Flint mother for $3 million just for saying that she did not agree with him. So with that caveat, Wright has been criticized for refusing to allow Virginia Tech water researcher Mark Edwards, who helped expose the Flint, Michigan water crisis, to test Denmark's wells for contamination. But he noted DHEC and the University of South Carolina haven't found problems in tests of Denmark's wells that they have done as recently as this spring. The former Denmark mayor said, "We need to find somebody to find out the facts and quit spreading rumors," which is very disturbing that he would say that, because these people are having real experiences with their water and real health concerns, and he shouldn't be dismissing that. And he also says, "We don't need to get all worked up about stuff if we don't know precisely what we are talking about." There's a lot more to that article, and I can link to it in the description, but you get the idea. There are cover-ups by the company, the state has done wrong, the mayor's not doing enough. Again, I'll say it over and over, this really has so many things in common with Flint. It's really disturbing, and this majority African American city should not have to be dealing with this, not in 2019. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it's maddening, and people are getting sick right now, and not enough is being done. Sure, they've stopped using HaloSan and they're trying to fix the pipes and things, but the damage is done, and more damage is currently being done because it's still not fixed. You can make a little bit of progress, but it's still not fixed. So let's see what what else Bernie Sanders has done towards this problem. And this article is in WIS News 10 Live Local Now, a local NBC affiliate, by Kiana Miller on May 25th. Senator Bernie Sanders' campaign to make donation for Denmark toxic water crisis. Following Senator Bernie Sanders' last visit to Bamberg County, where he met with Denmark citizens impacted by the ongoing water crisis, his South Carolina campaign director will join with Denmark residents and community leaders at the Rally for Safe Clean Water on May 25th. So that has already passed. Bernie 2020 South Carolina State Director, I'm going to try to pronounce this name correctly, Wadjo Campbell, will be at the rally from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., delivering 500 cases of bottled water donated by Senator Bernie Sanders and his campaign to help ease the burden of families in Denmark facing the constant threat of toxic water. "This is America in 2019, Senator Sanders said last week after visiting Denmark residents Paula Brown and Eugene Smith and seeing how the ongoing crisis is impacting families firsthand. You would think the water coming out of your faucet would not be toxic." Senator Sanders highlighted the federal government's failures to make clean water a national priority, saying, "If you think this is just a South Carolina problem, you're dead wrong. It's an American problem." Senator Sanders' call for immediate action to resolve the crisis was to ensure that all Americans had safe, clean drinking water no matter where they lived. Some folks believe that it's enough to commit to a series of reforms, including creating the Paula Brown Water Project to end the Denmark water crisis once and for all, South Carolina Communications Director Michael Wukela said. But Senator Sanders isn't like most politicians. He met with these families, looked them in the eye, and saw that they can't wait another year and a half for relief. They need help now, and that's why he personally donated 500 cases of bottled water to help ease their burden. That's the kind of leader he is. Status Coup will stay on this story. I've mentioned that more information needs to come out, more investigative reporting needs to be done, and that's what we'll be doing. We'll be contacting officials, we'll be trying to get documents to see what's been done, what needs to be done, because the reporting honestly needs to be updated on this story, and Status Coup is on it. So stay safe out there. I drink filtered water in my neighborhood, and I believe that you should too, because things like this are unfortunately happening all over the country, and you don't always get the sediment and the visual effects of the water to know that it's unsafe. So keep yourself safe and keep watching back for Status Coup. This has been Jen, and I'll talk to you later.